The sun was just beginning to rise over the ancient tomb, casting a soft golden glow on the stone walls that had stood for hundreds of years. Birds chirped in the distance and a light breeze whispered through the trees outside. Inside the tomb everything was quiet and still, except for the faint echo of footsteps on the cold, smooth floor. Among the tomb's guards was a young man named Amir. He had been assigned to watch over this sacred place for several years, and he took his duty very seriously. Every day he would patrol the hallways, making sure that the tomb remained untouched and that visitors respected the rules. Amir loved his job because it gave him a sense of purpose. He felt proud to be the protector of something so important, something that represented the history and honor of countless people who had come before him. But today was different. As he walked down the main corridor, he noticed an elderly man standing near the entrance. The man was small and frail, leaning heavily on a wooden cane. His clothes were simple but neat, and his eyes carried the weight of many years. Amir immediately recognized him as a veteran, someone who had once served his country and now came to pay his respects to those who had passed. The old man tried to take a step forward, but his legs trembled and he stumbled slightly. Amir quickly approached him. "Sir, are you all right?" he asked gently, his voice low and respectful. The veteran looked up, a tired smile spreading across his face. I just wanted to see the tomb," he said softly, his voice shaking. "I didn't realize how difficult the steps would be for me." Amir nodded. He knew exactly what to do. Without hesitation, he extended his arm. "Here, let me help you," he said. The veteran hesitated for a moment, clearly unused to receiving help, but finally took Amir's arm. Step by step, Amir guided him carefully up the stone stairs, supporting him without rushing. The veteran's hand trembled slightly, but Amir held firm, making sure each step was steady and safe. As they moved slowly but surely, Amir felt a strange mix of emotions. He was proud to help this man, yet he was also aware that the tomb had strict rules about guards interacting with visitors. Still, he could not ignore the veteran's struggle. He reminded himself that respect for people, especially those who had served their country, was far more important than rules that could be misunderstood. Finally, they reached a small platform near the tomb's inner chamber. The veteran leaned on Amir for a moment, catching his breath. "Thank you, young man," he said quietly. "I haven't had someone treat me with such kindness in a long time." Amir smiled. "It is my honor, sir," he replied. He stepped back slightly, giving the veteran space to take in the view of the sacred tomb. The walls were adorned with intricate carvings telling stories of courage, sacrifice, and honor. The air smelled faintly of incense, and the sunlight created patterns on the floor that seemed almost magical. The veteran slowly ran his fingers over one of the carvings, his eyes misting with emotion. Amir watched silently, feeling a sense of satisfaction. He had done something good, and that feeling warmed him from the inside. Just as Amir was about to step away, he noticed movement near the entrance. A group of senior officials had arrived unexpectedly. They wore sharp uniforms and walked with authority, their eyes scanning the area like hawks. Amir froze. He knew that the rules of the tomb were strict, and any interaction between guards and visitors could be easily misinterpreted. The officials' gaze fell on him and the veteran, and one of them, a stern-looking man with a clipboard, furrowed his brows. "What is happening here?" the man demanded, his voice loud enough to echo through the hall. "Why is a guard assisting a visitor without permission?" Amir felt a chill run down his spine. He opened his mouth to explain, but the words felt inadequate. "Sir, he is a veteran," he said respectfully. "I was only helping him because he was having difficulty with the steps." The official's expression did not soften. Instead, he shook his head sharply. "Rules are rules," he said. "No guard is allowed to interfere with visitors. You are under arrest for overstepping your authority." Amir's heart sank. He could not believe what he was hearing. Arrested for helping an old man? He looked at the veteran, who seemed confused and distressed. The veteran opened his mouth as if to speak, but the officials waved him aside. Amir was gently but firmly guided toward a small holding room at the back of the tomb. As he walked, he tried to stay calm. He reminded himself that he had done nothing wrong. Helping a veteran should never be considered a crime, but the fear of misunderstanding and the weight of authority pressed heavily on his shoulders. His fellow guards watched silently, some with concern, others unsure of what to do. Amir felt a pang of sadness. This place, which had always felt like a home, now seemed cold and unwelcoming. Inside the holding room, Amir sat on a hard wooden bench. The walls were bare, and the only light came from a small window high above, casting a dim glow. He reflected on his life and his service as a tomb guard. He had always tried to follow the rules and do his duty faithfully, but today, following his heart had put him in trouble. He wondered how often people in positions of power misunderstood the intentions of those who acted out of kindness. Meanwhile, the veteran remained near the inner chamber, still leaning on his cane. He looked around, searching for the young guard who had helped him. His face was filled with worry and his hands shook slightly. He had never imagined that an act of kindness could lead to such trouble. He thought about the young man's gentle voice, the careful way he had guided him up the steps, and he felt a deep sense of gratitude mixed with concern. Back in the holding room, Amir closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his family who lived far away and how proud they would be of him for treating someone with respect and dignity. He thought about the years of history preserved in this tomb and the people who had sacrificed so much for their country. He knew that his action, though misunderstood, was right in his heart. Hours seemed to pass slowly. Every sound outside, the footsteps of officials, the distant echo of conversations, made Amir tense. He tried to focus on his breathing, reminding himself that patience was important. He told himself that the truth would eventually come out, that people would understand why he had acted as he did. Yet deep down, he could not shake the fear of what might happen next. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the tomb remained silent, except for the occasional echo of footsteps. The sacred place, which had witnessed countless ceremonies and moments of reverence, now held a different kind of tension. A young man who had acted with compassion was waiting in a small room, uncertain of his fate, while an elderly veteran, grateful yet worried, remained in the inner chamber. In that quiet, Amir realized something important. Sometimes doing the right thing comes with challenges. Sometimes, even when the heart is pure, misunderstandings can happen. But he also knew that kindness, courage, and respect could never truly be wrong. He resolved to stay calm and hope that the situation would be resolved soon. And so the first chapter of this unexpected story ended in quiet suspense. Amir, the young tomb guard, waited patiently, unaware that within moments the arrival of someone important would change everything, setting the stage for a moment that no one in the tomb would ever forget. The hours passed slowly inside the tomb. Amir sat on the hard wooden bench staring at the plain walls, his thoughts spinning in circles. He tried to recall everything he had done that day, hoping to find a reason why the officials had been so harsh. But the truth was simple. He had only tried to help an old man. The injustice of the situation weighed heavily on him. Every few minutes a guard would pass by the holding room, giving him a glance filled with sympathy but unable to offer any comfort. Amir felt a mix of frustration, confusion, and worry, yet he tried to stay calm. After all, he was a tomb guard. Patience and discipline were part of his duty. Meanwhile, in the inner chamber of the tomb, the elderly veteran sat quietly. His cane rested beside him as he slowly traced the carvings on the walls with his fingertips. Each image told a story of bravery and sacrifice, and he could almost feel the presence of the people who had lived so long ago. But his mind kept drifting back to the young guard, the boy who had helped him up the stairs. He had been kind, careful, and respectful. No one had treated him that way in years. And now the thought that this young man might be in trouble made him anxious. The veteran called out softly for one of the officials nearby, but they simply waved him away, not bothering to explain what had happened. "He is just a visitor," one official said curtly, leaving the veteran feeling more helpless than before. His heart ached, not just for himself but for the young guard who had been so unfairly accused. Back in the holding room, Amir thought about his family. His parents had always taught him to help those in need, to stand by what was right even when it was difficult. Now, sitting in the dim light, he realized that their lessons had been tested in the hardest way possible. He clenched his fists and reminded himself that being true to his principles was more important than fear. He had acted out of kindness and nothing could change that. The other guards were still patrolling the tomb, whispering among themselves. Some of them shook their heads in disbelief, unable to understand why their fellow guard had been taken away. Amir had earned their respect through years of dedication, and they knew he would never misuse his position. Still, the presence of strict officials created a tension that no one dared to break. Everyone seemed to wait silently, as if the tomb itself held its breath, waiting for what would come next. In the quiet of the tomb, time felt slow, almost suspended. Amir's thoughts wandered to the meaning of his role as a tomb guard. He had always believed that his job was to protect the history and the honor of the people remembered here. But now he realized that protection meant more than guarding walls and artifacts. It meant guarding human dignity as well, and standing up for what was right even when others did not understand. He felt a quiet pride in his actions, knowing that he had acted with integrity. Meanwhile, the veteran tried to make sense of what had happened. He had seen the young guard helping him with such care that it seemed natural, yet the response from the officials was harsh and unkind. He wondered how someone could mistake compassion for wrongdoing. As he sat there, leaning on his cane, memories of his own service came back to him. The years of discipline, the challenges he had faced, the respect he had been taught to show others. He felt a strong connection to the young guard, as if their experiences, though separated by time, were somehow linked by shared values of honor and respect. Amir, sitting in the holding room, thought about the veteran as well. He hoped the man was safe and comfortable, that he understood Amir's intentions had only been to help. He knew that respect for elders and for those who had served the country was a principle he could never ignore. Even in this difficult situation, he felt that he had done the right thing. As the day moved forward, more visitors entered the tomb, unaware of the tension in the holding room. They walked quietly among the carvings and statues, reading inscriptions and paying their respects. Some glanced at Amir as he was led past, curious about his calm demeanor despite the circumstances. They could sense his integrity and the weight of his service. Meanwhile, the veteran watched from a distance, still hoping for a resolution that would set things right. At one point, one of the senior officials came to check on Amir. He looked at him critically as if trying to find evidence of wrongdoing. "Do you understand why this is serious?" the official asked, his tone sharp. "You cannot interfere with visitors. This is not a request, it is a rule." Amir looked up calmly, meeting the official's gaze. "I understand the rules, sir," he said respectfully. "But I also believe that helping someone in need is never wrong. The man I helped is a veteran and he needed assistance. I only did what I thought was right." The official frowned and turned away, muttering under his breath. Amir's heart sank a little, realizing that logic and respect might not be enough to convince those who were blinded by strict rules. But he did not lose hope. He continued to sit quietly, reflecting on the lessons he had learned and the strength he had gained. He reminded himself that patience and integrity were powerful tools, and that sometimes justice takes time to reveal itself. Meanwhile, the veteran began to notice other guards whispering among themselves. Some shook their heads in disbelief, while others looked concerned. The veteran's heart lifted slightly, realizing that the young guard was respected by those who truly knew him. Even though the officials had misunderstood, there were people who understood his intentions and valued his character. As the day turned into evening, the tomb became quiet once more. The golden light of the setting sun streamed through the windows, casting long shadows on the floor. Amir sat on the bench thinking about how moments of kindness could sometimes be misunderstood, yet still remained important. He reflected on the fact that even small acts of compassion could leave a lasting impression, and he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that he had acted according to his conscience. The veteran, still standing near the inner chamber, felt a growing sense of anticipation. He knew that what had happened to Amir was unfair, and he hoped that someone in authority would recognize the truth. He thought about all the people he had served with in his life, and how they had taught him to value courage, honor, and respect above all else. He hoped that the young guard would soon be free, and that his own gratitude could somehow help make things right. Inside the holding room, Amir closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the soft sounds of the tomb, the distant footsteps, the echo of voices, and the faint hum of the wind outside. He felt a deep connection to this place, not just as a guard, but as someone who understood the importance of honor, respect, and compassion. He reminded himself that he had acted correctly, and that the truth would eventually come to light. As the evening settled over the tomb, a sense of quiet expectation filled the air. Everyone, guards, visitors, and even the officials, sensed that something was about to happen, though no one could say exactly what. The tomb had witnessed countless events over the years, but this moment was different. It was not about history or artifacts, but about integrity, kindness, and the courage to do what was right in the face of misunderstanding. Amir sat silently, waiting, his heart steady despite the uncertainty. The veteran remained nearby, hoping, watching, and trusting that justice would prevail. And as the last light of day faded, both of them felt a strange but comforting sense of patience. They did not know what would happen next, but they knew that their actions had been guided by honesty and respect, and that truth often finds a way to reveal itself. The tomb was quiet now, holding its breath, waiting for the next chapter to unfold. And somewhere in the shadows, the presence of someone important, someone who could change everything, was about to enter, setting the stage for a moment that would leave everyone in the tomb forever changed. The tomb had grown quiet as the evening shadows stretched along the walls. Amir sat in the holding room, his back straight, hands folded in his lap. Though he had been calm for hours, a quiet tension still lingered in his chest. He could hear faint echoes of footsteps outside, and the low murmur of officials discussing something he could not quite make out. Every sound seemed magnified in the stillness, and his mind raced with questions. Would anyone understand why he acted as he did? Would the veteran be all right? Would this situation ever be resolved? Meanwhile, in the inner chamber, the elderly veteran remained standing near the carvings, his eyes shifting nervously toward the holding room. The moment had felt surreal to him. He had come to the tomb seeking quiet reflection and the chance to honor those who had served, and yet now, the young guard who had helped him was sitting in trouble simply for showing kindness. The veteran's heart felt heavy, but he also carried a spark of hope. He had witnessed the young man's integrity firsthand. He believed deep in his heart that truth and honesty could not be hidden forever. Just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the tomb in a warm golden glow, the heavy doors at the entrance opened. A group of officials entered, followed by a tall figure whose presence immediately commanded attention. It was the general, the high-ranking officer whose reputation for fairness and wisdom was known throughout the city. His uniform was immaculate, and his eyes scanned the room with quiet authority. The air seemed to change the moment he walked in. Even the guards, who had been tense and uncertain, stood a little straighter. The general moved with purpose, his steps slow and deliberate. He glanced at the officials and the veteran, who had stepped forward slightly, trying to catch his attention. Finally, his gaze fell upon Amir, sitting quietly in the holding room, his expression calm despite the hours of waiting. The general paused, taking in the scene, then turned to the stern official who had ordered Amir's detention. "What is happening here?" the general asked, his voice calm but firm. There was no anger, only the quiet authority of someone who expected honesty and clarity. The official stepped forward, attempting to explain, but his words faltered under the general's steady gaze. "Sir, this guard overstepped his authority. He assisted a visitor without permission," he began, his voice trailing off under the weight of the general's silence. The general raised a hand and the room fell quiet. "Assisted a visitor?" he repeated, his tone measured. "Explain exactly what happened." The veteran, seeing an opportunity, stepped forward. "General," he said, his voice strong despite his frail frame, "this young guard helped me. I am an old veteran and I had difficulty climbing the steps. He did not break any rules intentionally. He only offered his arm to help me safely. That is all." The general's eyes softened slightly as he looked at the veteran, then shifted to Amir. "Is this true?" he asked. Amir nodded, standing up slowly. "Yes, sir. I only wished to help him. I did not intend to disobey any rules, but I could not leave him struggling." The general studied Amir for a long moment. He could see the sincerity in the young man's eyes, the honesty, the respect, and the courage to act rightly even when it was risky. Finally, he turned back to the officials. "Release him immediately," he commanded. This guard acted with integrity, and his actions should be recognized, not punished. A murmur of surprise and relief passed through the room. The official who had ordered the arrest looked embarrassed, realizing his mistake. Guards whispered among themselves, their eyes shining with admiration for Amir, who had remained calm throughout the ordeal. As Amir stepped out of the holding room, the general approached him. "Young man," he said, placing a hand on Amir's shoulder, "your actions reflect the highest values of our service. Compassion, courage, and respect, these are the qualities we honor. Today you have demonstrated them all." Amir felt a rush of relief and pride. He bowed slightly, saying, "Thank you, sir." I only did what I believed was right. The veteran smiled warmly at Amir, his eyes glistening. You have restored my faith in people, he said softly. Not everyone shows kindness like yours, especially when there is fear of misunderstanding. I am grateful to you. The general nodded toward the veteran. And you, sir, have done well to speak the truth, he said. It is important that those who act with honor are recognized even in the face of misunderstanding. The atmosphere in the tomb shifted. The tension that had filled the air for hours slowly dissolved, replaced with a sense of relief and admiration. Guards, visitors, and officials alike seemed to breathe easier, witnessing a moment of justice and compassion. Amir and the veteran stood together for a moment, a silent acknowledgement passing between them, a bond formed not by blood, but by respect and gratitude. The general turned to the gathered officials and guards. Let this be a reminder, he said, his voice carrying through the hall, that rules exist to guide us, but they are never a substitute for humanity. We must always act with honor and compassion, especially toward those who have served our country. From that moment, Amir's act of kindness became a story told among the tomb's staff for years to come. His calm demeanor, his respect for the veteran, and his courage in the face of misunderstanding were remembered as an example of true integrity. The young guard had shown that even in a world bound by rules and authority, the human heart could guide decisions that were just and honorable. The veteran spent some time walking slowly through the tomb with Amir by his side. They paused at each carving, each sculpture sharing quiet reflections about history, courage, and the sacrifices of those who came before. Amir felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that his small act had not only helped a man in need, but had also strengthened the spirit of the place he was entrusted to protect. As the day turned to night, the tomb glowed softly under the light of lanterns. Shadows danced along the walls, and the air was filled with a peaceful stillness. Amir finally took a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the weight of the day lift from his shoulders. He had faced misunderstanding, uncertainty, and fear, but he had remained true to his principles. And now, he had not only been vindicated but celebrated for his courage and kindness. The veteran looked at Amir one last time before leaving the tomb. Remember, young man, he said, compassion is never wasted. Today you reminded all of us what it means to be truly honorable. Amir nodded, a smile spreading across his face. I will remember, sir, and I will continue to do what is right no matter the challenges. The general, still present, gave a small nod of approval. Well said. Let this day be a lesson to all of us. Honor is not just in following orders. It is in acting with respect, compassion, and courage. As the veteran departed, the tomb returned to its quiet state, but the events of the day had left a lasting mark. Guards and staff spoke in hushed tones about what had happened, sharing the story with new arrivals, each retelling preserving the lesson of integrity and courage. Amir returned to his duties, but he did so with a renewed sense of purpose. He understood now more than ever that being a tomb guard was not just about watching walls and artifacts. It was about protecting dignity, showing respect and acting with the heart as much as with discipline. And so, the story ended with a sense of resolution and hope. The young guard had faced a test of character, and had proven that kindness, honesty, and courage could prevail, even in the face of misunderstanding and authority. The veteran had been cared for with respect, and the tomb itself seemed to shine a little brighter, as if acknowledging the integrity of those who served within its walls. From that day on, Amir's story became more than a tale of duty. It became an example for everyone who entered the tomb, a reminder that even in the strictest systems, humanity, kindness, and honor must always find a place. And in the quiet moments as the tomb stood timeless and steady, the echoes of that day continued to inspire those who walked its halls, a lasting testament to the power of doing what is right.